Welcome back to the deep dive. I am really thrilled to have you joining us today because we have a mission that is going to completely change the way you look at, well, pretty much every single interaction in your
It
life.
really is a paradigm shift.
Yeah. We recently got our hands on a comprehensive psychology study guide. Specifically, it's the material for a university course, PSYC 31110 Exam 2. But we aren't looking at this to pass a test.
Right. No quizzes today.
Exactly. We're using it as a Rosetta Stone to decode the very fabric of human relationships. We're going to explore everything from that initial magnetic spark of romance.
All the way to the really heavy, complicated realities of betrayal and forgiveness.
Yes. And I want to explicitly state our focus today, because this is a study guide. Our mission is to give you all the information. We're going to explicitly say the exact titles of every term and category so you can completely master this material.
And while this material originates as a psychological framework, I want to assure you that this isn't just dry academic theory. What we have here is a highly practical toolkit for understanding exactly why people and why you act the way they do in relationships.
Okay, let's unpack this starting with Chapter 6, Interdependence and Relationship Processes. The source kicks off with a concept called capitalization, and this is based on Gable's 2009 research.
Yeah, Gable's work on this is fantastic.
It is. Now, usually we think a great partner is someone who holds our hand through a crisis. But Gable's research shows the real test of a relationship is actually how a partner reacts when you share good news.
It's a really fascinating shift in perspective. The research categorizes these reactions into capitalization response types, measured across two dimensions: active versus passive, and constructive versus destructive.
So that creates a matrix.
Exactly. Four distinct categories you need to know. First is active constructive, which is enthusiastic and supportive. They celebrate with you.
Like, that's amazing. Let's go out to dinner.
Right. Second is passive constructive, which is quiet, understated support, like a simple, oh, that's nice.
Kind of underwhelming.
Very. Third is active destructive, where the partner actively points out the flaws or risks in your good news, just deflating your excitement.
Ouch.
And finally, passive destructive, where they just ignore the news entirely or change the subject.
The profound insight here, and I want to reiterate this, is that only one of those builds genuine connection. It's the active constructive responses that build the strongest relationships.
Absolutely.
Which leads us to interdependence theory. This is essentially the cold, hard math of why we stay together. It falls under social exchange theory.
Which suggests people evaluate their relationships based on a literal calculation. The formula for this emotional accounting system is pretty straightforward. Outcomes equal rewards minus costs.
So outcomes equals rewards minus costs, and the specific examples of rewards the text lists are love, companionship, emotional support, sex, and fun activities.
While the costs are the negative aspects, specifically conflict, effort, stress, and time demands.
But it's not just a snapshot, right? You have to factor in what you've already put in.
Yes, investments. These are the sunk costs. The things you put into a relationship that you would lose if it ended. Time, emotional energy, shared friends, shared possessions, and memories.
And this is where the math gets incredibly personal. We judge those outcomes using comparison levels.
What's fascinating here is how we set that baseline. Comparison level, or CL, is your relationship expectation based on your past baggage, what you see in others, and cultural norms.
So your CL determines your basic satisfaction.
Exactly. But the second metric is comparison level for alternatives, or CLALT. This is your perception of how good the best alternative relationship would be.
And alternatives explicitly include just being single or focusing on your career, right?
Yes. And your CLALT determines your dependence on the current relationship.
Okay, so if we map those two metrics together, we get a matrix of 4 types of relationships. Number 1 is happy and stable. Your outcomes are above your expectations and above your alternatives.
The ideal scenario.
Right. Number 2 is happy but unstable. You're happy because it beats your expectations, but you're tempted to leave because your alternatives look even better.
And number 3 is where it gets tricky. Unhappy but stable.
The stuck relationship.
Precisely. Your outcomes are below your expectations, so you're dissatisfied, but they're still above your alternatives, meaning you feel stuck because you think being single or finding someone else would actually be worse.
And finally, number 4 is unhappy and unstable. It's below your expectations and your alternatives, so it's highly likely to end.
Right.
I find the next concept, the principle of lesser interest, incredibly cynical. But it makes sense. The person who is less emotionally invested actually holds more power.
Because they can control decisions more easily since they need the relationship less. It all ties back to that rewards to costs ratio.
That power dynamic naturally influences motivation in relationships. The framework explicitly names two drives here: approach motivation and avoidance motivation.
Approach motivation is the drive to seek positive experiences, like closeness or fun. Avoidance motivation is the drive to avoid negative outcomes, like rejection or conflict.
And mapping those gives us the four relationship motivation types. Let's explicitly title them. High approach and low avoidance creates the most satisfying relationships.
High approach and high avoidance leads to turbulent, mixed emotions.
Low approach and low avoidance results in a dull, indifferent relationship.
And low approach and high avoidance creates distressed, unhappy relationships where you're basically just trying not to fight.
Now, humans aren't static, we grow. The self-expansion model suggests we seek relationships that expand our sense of self.
But that growth brings friction. The text outlines changes over time and relational turbulence in three specific stages: the early stage of high excitement, the adjustment stage where conflicts appear, and the stability stage where things level out.
Navigating that adjustment period requires commitment. I love how the framework breaks this down into Johnson's three types of commitment.
They are very distinct.
Yes. There's personal commitment, where you stay simply because you want to. Moral commitment, where you stay because of a religious or ethical obligation.
Yeah.
And structural commitment, where you stay because it's logistically or financially difficult to leave.
To really solidify this, Rusbolt's framework gives us the investment model. To reiterate that math, high satisfaction plus high investments plus poor alternatives equals strong commitment.
And that's heavily influenced by commitment readiness, right?
Yes, how prepared you are based on your life stage. The consequences of commitment are profound, leading to a willingness to sacrifice, greater forgiveness, and actively ignoring attractive alternatives.
So if interdependence theory is the math, let's look at the chemistry. Chapter 8, Love. This brings us to Sternberg's triangular theory of love.
Sternberg argues that love is a mix of three components: intimacy, passion, and commitment.
Intimacy being emotional closeness, passion being physical attraction, and commitment being the decision to maintain it. And by mixing those, we get 8 types of love. Let's list all 8.
Number 1 is non-love, lacking all three.
2 is liking, which is intimacy alone. 3 is infatuation, which is purely passion.
4 is empty love, commitment without intimacy or passion.
5 is romantic love, combining intimacy and passion. 6 is companionate love, combining intimacy and commitment.
7 is fatuous love, passion plus commitment.
And 8 is consummate love, the rare combination of all three: intimacy, passion, and commitment.
The research also points out some interesting age and gender differences here. Women often prioritize commitment earlier on, while men tend to fall in love faster.
But over time, the text lists 3 reasons passion declines. Habituation as the novelty fades, daily responsibilities getting in the way, and simply less physiological excitement as bodies adapt.
That physiological element is crucial.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at arousal and love through Hatfield and Burscheid's 2-factor model.
This completely changed how we understand attraction. It states passionate love occurs when two things happen simultaneously: physiological arousal and the cognitive interpretation of that arousal as love.
Meaning our brains can misinterpret fear or adrenaline as romance. The famous Dutton and Aaron 1974 bridge study is the perfect example.
Oh, the wobbly bridge study.
Exactly. Researchers had an attractive female interviewer approach men on a terrifying suspension bridge, or a sturdy low bridge. The men on the scary bridge were significantly more likely to call her later. Their brains misattributed their fear-induced pounding hearts as attraction.
And the white 1981 study proved it wasn't just fear. Participants who simply ran in place were more likely to feel attraction afterward. The physiological state amplifies the response.
To categorize these feelings, Rubin developed the love versus liking scales. The explicit components of love are attachment, caring, and intimacy.
Whereas the components of liking are respect, similarity, and positive feelings.
And we express that differently. Lee's 6 styles of love breaks this down perfectly. Let's explicitly list them. Eros is intense, passionate love.
Ludus treats love as a playful game. Storge is a slow-burning, friendship-based love.
Pragma is a logical, practical approach. Mania is an obsessive, demanding love.
And agape is an altruistic, selfless love.
Of course, when love isn't returned, we experience unrequited love. How we handle that ties directly to attachment and love.
Right. Secure attachment leads to the healthiest relationships. Anxious attachment leads to intense emotions and jealousy, and avoidant attachment results in a deep discomfort with closeness.
Before we move to the next chapter, I want to reiterate Helen Fisher's advice for long relationships. Her 5 specific tips are: maintain novelty, express affection, maintain a sexual connection, support each other's goals, and spend quality time together.
Excellent advice.
Which transitions us naturally to Chapter 9, Sexuality. The source material takes a very impartial look at attitudes about sex. It explicitly names the permissiveness with affection, standard meaning casual sex is accepted within a romantic relationship.
And it contrasts that with the sexual double standard, where men are praised for sexual activity while women are judged more harshly for the exact same behavior.
When analyzing a first sexual experience, motives are usually curiosity, love, or peer pressure. Over time, we see changes in sexual behavior, where frequency naturally declines in long-term relationships.
So why do people have sex? The framework identifies 4 themes for reasons people have sex: physical pleasure, emotional connection, goal attainment, and insecurity or pressure.
Moving to extradyadic sex and infidelity, the material connects this to sociosexual orientation.
Which is a person's underlying attitude toward casual sex. There's restricted orientation, wanting sex only within commitment, and unrestricted orientation, being comfortable with casual sex.
The text also covers consensual non-monogamy, naming 3 explicit forms: swinging, open relationships, and polyamory.
On the topic of safe sex, unsafe sex still occurs frequently due to alcohol or the illusion of unique invulnerability.
But what determines sexual satisfaction?
It's heavily based on mindset. The text contrasts growth versus destiny beliefs. Destiny beliefs assume partners are magically meant for each other, so they give up easily.
While growth beliefs assume sexual intimacy improves with effort, which leads to higher sexual satisfaction and overall relationship satisfaction.
Now, the framework also takes a highly factual approach to sexual coercion.
Yes, we need to explicitly name the 2 dimensions: verbal versus physical, and subtle versus forceful.
And based on those, there are 4 types of sexual coercion: verbal pressure, emotional manipulation, alcohol or drug use, and physical force.
The text lists the consequences as severe psychological trauma. It also outlines characteristics of coercers, like entitlement and a lack of empathy.
For reducing risk, it explicitly contrasts 2 reactions: the bystander effect, where individuals assume someone else will intervene,
Versus the helper effect, where people feel a direct, personal sense of responsibility to step in.
That heavy reality brings us to Chapter 10, conflict, rejection, and problem solving.
At the core of all conflict is relational value, how much someone values their relationship with you. But what actually drives our feelings is perceived relational value.
Your belief about how much they value you. When you sense that dropping, you experience relational devaluation.
The extreme end of that is ostracism. The framework reads out 7 degrees of acceptance and rejection. I'll read them: celebration, active inclusion, ambivalence, passive rejection, active rejection, and ostracism.
The studies on ostracism are wild. Human beings process social rejection like physical pain.
The Zong and Leonardelli 2008 study found that social rejection literally made people feel physically colder in the room.
And the Twenjial 2003 study showed that participants who experienced ostracism became significantly more aggressive.
That fear of rejection breeds complex emotions. We have to clearly contrast jealousy versus envy. Envy is wanting something someone else has. Jealousy is the fear of losing a relationship to a rival.
The guide explicitly names reactive jealousy, a response to a real threat, and suspicious jealousy, driven by paranoia.
And the ultimate trigger for jealousy is deception, specifically lying. But the mechanics are what's interesting. First is deceiver's distrust.
When someone lies frequently, they perceive their partner as less honest, projecting their own guilt.
Second is the truth bias, our innate tendency to assume our partners are telling the truth. Because of this, we are remarkably poor at detecting lies.
When deception is uncovered, it results in betrayal. Moving past that requires the 3 ingredients for forgiveness: apology from the offender, empathy from the victim, and rebuilding trust.
And to navigate these conflicts, the framework offers the 6 steps of problem solving. Step 1, define the problem. Step 2, understand each perspective. Step 3, brainstorm solutions. Step 4, evaluate options. Step 5, choose a solution. Step 6, implement and review.
A very practical roadmap.
So what does this all mean? We just journeyed through a massive psychological landscape. How do you take this cheat sheet and apply it to your life.
I think the most powerful takeaway here is validation. Understanding these specific categories and formulas empowers you. It gives you a map to navigate complex emotional landscapes.
You aren't just blindly reacting anymore.
Exactly. And this raises a final lingering question I want to leave you with. We talked about the truth bias and how humans are naturally poor lie detectors. But what if this inherent blind spot is actually an evolutionary necessity?
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
If we didn't naturally default to trusting our partners, if we were always acting as suspicious lie detectors, could we ever develop the growth beliefs required to reach Sternberg's consummate love? It's something for you to ponder the next time you choose to trust.